Welcome to the show. Now, he's finally made his intention known after speculations and endorsements by different groups across the country. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has declared his interest in succeeding President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, the decision comes after consultations and a formal notification to his principal, Buhari, which culminated in a meeting last night with governors elected on platform of the All Progressives Congress. Now, the meeting was said to have lasted for about 3 hours and had in attendance the governor of Kebbi State, who is also the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, Atiku Bagudu, who led many of his colleagues to the meeting where Osinbajo formally told them about his plan to contest for the APC presidential ticket. Now, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, while making his formal declaration earlier this morning, talked about several things that he's done, including how he's been able to support President Muhammadu Buhari in the last 7 years, and how he has been able to help support the government that he's serving in various ways. But let's listen to the specifics as to what he said during that declaration.
With utmost humility, formally declaring my intention to run for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the platform of our great party, the All Progressives Congress. If by the grace of God and the will of the people I am given the opportunity, then I believe that first we must complete what we have started, radically transforming our security and intelligence architecture, completing the reform of our justice system, focusing on adequate remuneration and welfare of judicial personnel, and ensuring justice for all and the observance of the rule of law, rapidly advancing our infrastructure development, especially power, roads, railways, and broadband connectivity, providing an excellent environment for businesses to thrive, taking the agricultural revolution to the next level, especially mechanization and developing the farm-to-table value chain, making sure that the government, its agencies and regulators serve the business community, creating a tech economy that will provide jobs for millions of young Nigerians, enhancing our social investment program to a full-scale social welfare program, completing the promise of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty within this decade, completing the task of ensuring that all Nigerians, male and female, attend school, reforming our educational system for relevance to the challenges of this century, completing the task of universal health coverage for all, and strengthening the capacity of states and local governments to deliver on their respective mandates. Above all, front and center of our efforts will be the provision of jobs and opportunities for our young people.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo there making his declaration earlier in the day. And news just coming in actually says that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is known to be the political godfather of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, has also met with governors of the ruling All Progressives Congress at the Kebbi State Governor's Lodge in Abuja here, which just ended not quite long. And when Tinubu was asked about the declaration by his political godson, as many would love to put it, he actually made this statement, and I would like to quote him: "I don't have any son grown up enough to make such declaration." And what many will say is actually a reference to Osinbajo not being his political godson based on this declaration. Well, for more on this, I'm now being joined by a senior advocate of Nigeria and a social commentator, Dapo Akin Oshun. So good to have you, Dapo Akin Oshun. What's your first view about Osinbajo's declaration? We can hear him saying that he would further advance some of the policies of this administration. One cardinal one, which is to lift about 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. And then he's also taking steps to talk about how he's traversed this country. He knows the people, he knows the challenges, and why he should be the first person to be entrusted the party's ticket during the party's primaries next month. What's your view?
I think you said it all. Because starting from the way the declaration came, you can see this is a man who is at home with technology. First of all, it shows his young at heart. He's willing and able to use technology to the uttermost. He didn't call a gathering of people. He didn't call a gathering of journalists. He didn't spend any money at all, which shows you prudent leadership in the startup, in the very get-go. And when I looked at it on YouTube, he had already received over 450,000 hits. I'm not sure there's any stadium in Nigeria that could have sat 450,000 people. He didn't need to make any show of running around. You know, you could see that. Definitely, this is
like someone did on Saturday. I mean,
well, I'm not saying anything about that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's all politics, and this is the season for it. Actually,
see that this is someone who gets a job, who gets straight to the job, goes for it without any fanfare. Let's just get to the job. So on the things he has said, he has done, I think that shows clearly, and without any hesitation at all, that he's the most qualified person for this job. How many people have the breadth, the depth of experience that he has had? And we look at the number of places he has been to, and those are just a few that he mentioned, of getting a touch and a feel of what is going on in those places. When there were floods in North Central Zone, he was there. When there was fire, he was there. So he's been to classrooms and sat down with school children all over the country. He can see the lack of infrastructure. He understands what it means when the Niger Delta people complain that there's environmental degradation, because he's been there himself. And you can see a man who is ready to hit the ground running.
But that's where the problem actually lies, because people are afraid that he will continue with Buhari's policies. And a lot of Nigerians don't seem to be comfortable with some things that have happened, the insecurity. Don't you think that will be a blight on his own personal political career, which is different from that of Buhari?
Don't forget that the things that they complain about, it's not as if it was always like that. In the first instance, insecurity was very bad. It got better. But as people got bolder and were getting away with murder, this thing, I mean, what you're seeing is human beings to each other. It is not the president that is carrying the guns. It is we ourselves that are doing it to ourselves. And it just shows the level of depravity. And it's not only happening in Nigeria, by the way. It's happening all over the world. And can we control it? Can it be stemmed? Of course it can be. And that is why someone who already understands the problems is better off addressing it.
You don't think Osinbajo is being seen as part of the problem by some sections of the country?
No.
Because he served in the government?
Because I served in a government means I know where the skeletons are buried. I know what the issues remain to be done that have not been effectively done or have not been properly executed. It's not, a lot of the time government comes up with a lot of policies, but not everything is properly executed. And sometimes, that leads to people to misbehave. But as you find that when you see a man who's, I'm ready to run this thing, now we have seen the issues on ground. We know why it didn't work well. It's a different thing when they just came into office. They were still looking at how much was in the treasury, what was left behind what was the problem in the Niger Delta. All those things he now has first-hand knowledge of. Whoever is coming in will first have to listen to the issues again, spend time understanding it, know where but this, he can land running. And I think that is what we need at this critical point in the development of the country. Because the truth be told, I'm not sure we can last much longer as a nation with the intolerance we're seeing if something doesn't happen quickly. Okay,
so he's been seen as a figure that will unite Nigerians.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you can see from his acceptability across all the country.
Yeah, but how prepared is Osinbajo to run alone politically now? There's no Buhari there, neither is there a Tinubu to go with him. Does he have what it takes to run politically alone? Because he has to be his own man now.
You see, what he's there to do is to do a job. And if you know Osinbajo, all the time he's had to deliver on what he wants to do. He has not failed. And if you dig back into his history, he had a little stint, he has a stint as the special assistant to Bola Ajibola when Bola Ajibola was Attorney General of the Federation. By the time he came out and became the Attorney General, the things he did in that period have transformed the judiciary all over the country forever, from just what he did in Lagos State. I mean, Lagos State, we know the history at that time, how it was the most feared judiciary because of things were not working right. But by the time he left there, he left the best judiciary, and he has that capacity to turn things around when he gets the opportunity. So now, having had a stint to also work as a vice president, I believe with the experience he has garnered, he will be able to land running and do very well as a president as well.
Yeah, but you can't tell me that some of you who are his associates are not afraid of his political future, because he flew on Tinubu's wings alongside that of other political leaders to become a vice presidential candidate or running mate to Buhari. And he flew on Buhari's wings to actually win the presidential election in 2015 and repeated the same feat in 2019. But this time around, he has to fly on his own wings now.
Does that not show you that he's a great person to fly with? That everybody, why don't you look at it from the other side? That everybody who has flown with him as a co-pilot have been successful. So that shows that a man who is dependable, a man who is reliable, a man who, when you associate with, you are bound to succeed. There are some people who you work with, and it turns into a fight between you and your assistant, and you are distracted from doing the work because you are being undermined, you are fighting battles within. But this man has shown a consistent capacity that whoever he's flying with always succeeds. So I think that is a great attribute.
And you don't think his declaration today will actually, cause some stirrs? I mean, especially in the Bola Tinubu political family from which he had previously emerged. Do you think that all will be well in that political family? Or, let me just put it this other way, is it a strategy by the Bola Tinubu political family to actually have two of them contesting so that if Tinubu doesn't get, and Osinbajo could get the APC presidential ticket?
I'm not part of their strategy team.
Yeah,
I'm not part of the
I know you are an associate, but we are just actually taking a look at it politically.
So I don't know what the strategy is. However, one thing is clear, that even if it's a strategy, of course there'll be some discomfort, as you can see. Some people will not be happy. But I once asked myself, this thing is about the lives of 200 million Nigerians and the future of the country. If you were going to play a football match, Nigeria was going to play a football match, and you have to select a team to lead your football match, would you take the best players because of their capacity, skill, and experience, or would you look at the players because of loyalty and this man has been a team player for a long time? When it comes to winning a match, which is what you need to do now, you look for the best players to put forward. And
Osinbajo is that best player.
And I think at this time, we need to look who is the best player to represent Nigeria.
And Osinbajo is that best player.
Well, since you said so, I will agree with you.
No, I'm only asking you. And I mean, that's what we round off. Just before we round off this conversation, I want you to tell Nigerians why the APC should hand over its ticket to Osinbajo and why Nigerians should entrust him with power if he eventually gets that ticket ahead of the 2023 polls.
Why you should hand over to Osinbajo? I think, as I said earlier, he's the most experienced person for the job now. Nobody has had that experience among those who are running of being acting president for a certain number of times. That alone stands him ahead of the crowd. Secondly, he has also been involved in many projects. The president has trusted him with many things in this tenure, including the economic transformation, education, and you find that he has been involved and knows exactly where to go. So if beyond that, he has also shown that he has a capacity to mend fences and bring people together. I mean, one of the things I remember most was the trouble in the Niger Delta when the administration first came in. He visited the Niger Delta once, and there was a sudden return of peace in that environment. What you need at this time is a man who can bring peace, who can mend fences, who can call people together and say, let's dialogue this thing and work it. And if he needs to take steps, he can also be decisive in making decisions and doing what he needs to do. A man with empathy, who understands where you're coming from. I mean, I remember him taking a photograph with children in one school where they all sat down on a bench and he was eating their food. I'm not sure. During the campaign, he has been to, I remember in 2019, he visited over 60, 70 cities in the Southwest, touching homes, touching palaces, feeling the people directly. Not many people have done that.
Especially on behalf of President Buhari.
Yes, and he went ahead to tell them, the president, you can see he's a good team player. So why Nigerians should hand over to him, or why APC should hand over to him, I think is their best shot forward. If you want to win a match, don't forget this is not a fight within APC. There's still a battle against PDP and other parties who are contesting for this same office.
Right.
So it is important that when you're going into a match, you put your best man forward. And without any doubt, I think at this time, he's the best suited in terms of temperament, he's best suited in terms of age, he's best suited in terms of intellectual capacity. He's a man where you see standing out. You will say, yeah, that's my president. Yeah,
okay. Thank you so much. And there's a lot of optimism by you, Dakpo Akintosun, who is a lawyer, a senior advocate of Nigeria, and a very strong supporter of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo.
A believer.
A believer indeed. Okay, interesting indeed. We can only wish him well as he throws his heart into the ring. I mean, it's a murky world of politics, and we just hope he will sail through. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.